The film begins by showing a female composer named Katherine, who is arguing with the conductor and leader of an orchestra, Gustav, about the music that will be performed during a concerto at a fundraising event. A concerto is a performance where a soloist is accompanied by an orchestra. Gustav actually wants to perform a piece composed by Katherine, titled Concerto for Children. However, this idea is immediately rejected by Katherine. For reasons unknown, she refuses to allow Gustav to play that piece. To prevent anyone else from taking her score, Katherine decides to burn it. While she is setting the score on fire, she is disturbed by a mysterious figure hidden in the darkness. Panic-stricken and terrified, Katherine accidentally catches on fire herself. She is instantly consumed by the flames and dies on the spot. Her body is reduced to ashes, but strangely, the musical score remains untouched. After her death, Katherine's sibling hides the score inside their house. The scene then shifts to a woman named Melanie, who is practicing the flute in an orchestra. Melanie is one of the members of the orchestra led by Gustav. Within the orchestra, she is known as a talented flutist. In addition, Melanie also has a gift for composing music. For the fundraising event, Melanie is given the chance to perform a concerto. This is a golden opportunity that may never come again, so she is determined to secure the position. However, her path will not be easy, as she must compete with another flutist named Franklin. After rehearsal ends, Melanie asks Gustav about the music that will be performed at the fundraising concerto. If Gustav has not yet chosen the right piece, Melanie wants to suggest her own composition to be featured in the concerto. However, Gustav immediately rejects Melanie's suggestion, believing that her music is not strong enough to captivate the audience. This makes Melanie feel a bit disappointed, as she has not even had the chance to present her work yet, but is already met with rejection.
It's a pipe dream, Mr. Gustafsson. Just give me your notes and I'll go back to the drawing board.
After that, Melanie continues working at a bar. Since Melanie is a widow, her circumstances force her to work extra hard to provide for her daughter, Zoe. Moreover, Zoe was born with a disability. She struggles to hear. Despite her condition, Zoe dreams of becoming a musician like her mother. Melanie often trains Zoe not only to listen to music, but also to feel it through vibrations and touch. To support Zoe's dream, Melanie has to spend a lot of money on hearing aids for her. At this point, Melanie's financial situation is becoming critical due to her many debts, which is why she is so determined to be chosen as the musician who will perform the concerto. This way, she could earn more money. Although she was previously rejected, Melanie does not give up easily. She once again approaches Gustav, this time bringing her music score so that he can review it directly. Unfortunately, Melanie is too late, as Gustav has already decided to use a piece written by Franklin. Of course, Melanie could not let that happen because she desperately wanted to secure the position.
Franklin will be devastated.
It was written while she was studying abroad in Hanover. We should be honoring her memory by playing the last thing that she...
She then offered to search for Katherine's music. Coincidentally, Katherine had once been Melanie's mentor, and she was very familiar with Katherine's family. From the beginning, Gustav had wanted to perform one of Katherine's works, but since the location of the score was unknown, he was forced to settle for Franklin's composition. Hearing Melanie's offer, Gustav was delighted and promised that if Melanie managed to find the score, he would reward her with a large sum of money. Before she left, Gustav explained that the piece he wanted to perform was Katherine's concerto for children. Melanie was instantly shocked upon learning this, as that music had last been performed 50 years ago. On the day Katherine presented it to the public, a massive fire broke out, claiming the lives of many, including children whose bodies were mysteriously never recovered from the scene. Miraculously, Katherine survived the incident. Since then, she had been deeply afraid of her own creation, going so far as to destroy every copy of the score. She left only a single surviving copy, which she kept safe in her home. The piece itself had been composed by Katherine during her studies in Germany, inspired by a famous German folktale. Learning about the dark history of the music, Melanie was astonished that Gustav would want to revive it, especially since Katherine herself never wished to perform it again. Still, in order to earn a substantial amount of money, Melanie agreed to retrieve the score. She immediately went to Katherine's house, where she was greeted by Katherine's sister, Alice.
Can I help you?
Melanie quickly explained her purpose for coming, to take Katherine's score. However, Alice refused to give it to her and instead drove Melanie away.
Your boss called a few times. Like I told Mr. Gustafsson, that music will never see the light of day.
Well, how do you know she didn't want it performed?
Please leave.
Alice felt strongly that the music was dangerous and terrifying, pointing out that Katherine herself had risked her life trying to destroy it. Even though she had been expelled from the house, Melanie did not leave for good. She deliberately waited until Alice went out, then secretly slipped back inside. She wandered through the rooms in search of Katherine's score until she finally discovered a box containing both the sheet music and an audio recording of Concerto for Children. Curious, she decided to listen to the music for the first time. The piece sounded incredibly beautiful, yet for some reason, Melanie felt uneasy as she listened, as if there was something disturbingly strange hidden within the music. Since it was already late at night, Melanie quickly brought the box to Gustav. On her way, however, her car broke down, and from a distance, she saw a terrifying figure approaching her, causing her to panic. Gustav examined the sheet music thoroughly, but he discovered that part of it was damaged. The third movement had been burned by Katherine. Because of this, Gustav declared that they could not perform the piece without the third movement. Melanie pleaded with Gustav to give her the chance to rewrite the third movement in her own version. Having once been mentored by Katherine, Melanie was very familiar with her musical style, which would help her reconstruct the missing section. Gustav agreed to the idea and entrusted Melanie with the task, hoping she could complete it on time so they would still have the chance to rehearse before the fundraising event.
Where's the rest of the third movement?
I think I can finish the third movement. Nobody knows Katherine's work better than I do. Well, I can do it.
Then do it.
Melanie immediately went home to work on the continuation of the third movement. Using the audio recording of the first and second movements, she began analyzing the piece. The longer she listened, the more she felt as if she were being hypnotized. The music seemed to reveal a strange vision of a mysterious lake, and in it, she saw several children drowning. When the recording ended, Melanie was shocked to see that the blank paper in front of her was now filled with notes completing the third movement. Without realizing it, she had written part of the missing section while completely absorbed in the music. Toward the end of the recording, Melanie noticed a distortion, like a faint voice speaking words that were unclear. Disturbed, she hurried to her friend, a music professor named Philip, and asked him to repair the damaged portion of the recording so she could clearly hear the voice. While examining the sheet music, Melanie and Philip also discovered a phrase referring to disturbances in harmonic patterns. Philip explained that every harmony in music must be constructed in a structured and organized way. However, if the pattern was disrupted, the harmony would collapse, potentially causing mood changes and hallucinations. Such phenomena were usually associated with so-called demonic music, which could influence the listener's mind. Nevertheless, throughout their careers, both Melanie and Philip had never believed in the existence of demonic music, so they chose not to dwell too much on it.
It ruins the pattern. Called it demonic music. Give it my best try.
Meanwhile, in another place, Melanie's friend Nancy and her son Colin were at Melanie's house to look after Zoe. While waiting for Melanie to return, Nancy practiced playing the violin while Colin and Zoe were busy playing together.
My mom says the ear is the most important part of playing an instrument.
Wait here.
In the living room, Colin became curious about the music player, which still contained the recording of Katherine's music. Without much thought, Colin listened to the recording.
doing?
To him, the music sounded strange, as if he were seeing a lake while listening to it. Then Zoe asked Colin not to think about it anymore and invited him to play hide and seek instead. However, during the game, Colin was suddenly terrorized by a terrifying figure lurking in the darkness. The melody he had heard earlier kept echoing in his head, and even at bedtime, he continued humming it. Later that night, Colin was once again tormented and eventually abducted by the same terrifying figure. Nancy panicked when she realized Colin had disappeared without a trace. Desperate, she asked Melanie for help in searching for him, but their efforts yielded no results. In the end, Nancy turned to the police, hoping they would be able to find Colin. Afterward, Melanie went to meet Gustav to show him the progress of her work. Although the third movement was not yet fully completed, Gustav was astonished by Melanie's results. In his view, the movement was capable of creating a dark and frightening atmosphere that the audience would strongly feel. This was exactly the kind of music Gustav had long desired to present. Even though it was unfinished, Gustav immediately proceeded with concerto rehearsals, using Katherine's music, with Franklin as the principal flutist. When the concerto was performed, Melanie began experiencing hallucinations, seeing a lake and a city. In the middle of the performance, Franklin suddenly felt weak and collapsed, while the temperature inside the theater grew unbearably hot. At that moment, Melanie realized something was very strange about the music. As she was about to leave the theater, she noticed a photograph of a lake that looked identical to the one she had seen in her vision while listening to the music. It turned out to be Lake Weser, located in the city of Hamelin, Germany. Instantly, Melanie remembered a famous German folktale about the Pied Piper of Hamelin. Later at home, Melanie and Zoe read the story together. The folktale told of a city plagued by a rat infestation. Then came a skilled piper who offered to rid the city of the rats in exchange for payment. The townspeople agreed, and the piper began to play his flute, leading the rats away from the city. However, once the task was completed, the townspeople refused to pay him. Enraged by their betrayal, the piper vowed to return and take his revenge. Before reaching the end of the story, Melanie asked Zoe to go to bed. Zoe felt that her mother was intentionally hiding the ending from her. Driven by curiosity, Zoe secretly listened to the same music Colin had heard. As she listened, she sensed the presence of a mysterious figure approaching her. Terrified, Zoe removed her hearing aid so she would no longer hear the music. Meanwhile, in her bedroom, Melanie decided to stop working on the third movement and chose to go to sleep instead. But when she woke up the next morning, she was shocked to find the score of the third movement already completed. Melanie was certain she had not finished it herself. She remembered falling asleep right away. If it was not her who wrote it, then who had completed the third movement? Then we are shown Zoe being tormented by the mysterious figure. The strange music kept echoing in her mind, making her feel terrified and anxious. She eventually confessed to Melanie that she had listened to the music. Zoe explained that when she heard it, she saw a vision of a lake, and she also told Melanie that Colin had listened to the same music before he went missing. Upon hearing this, Melanie comforted her daughter and asked her to go to bed since it was already late at night.
Okay, Zoe. You down when I played for you.
However, Zoe, still troubled by the music, struggled to fall asleep and went out to look for her mother. Instead, she found Melanie in a state of possession, her body taken over as she effortlessly wrote more of the third movement. Worried, Zoe tore a piece of paper to snap Melanie out of the trance. After the experience, Melanie finally understood why Katherine never allowed the music to be played publicly. The piece was extremely dangerous because once someone heard it, the melody would endlessly replay in their mind, and a demonic figure would always appear whenever it was performed. To prevent disaster, Melanie rushed to the orchestra theater to warn Gustav about the danger of the music.
Thought I was quite clear on what would happen if you were late. Just get me the third movement.
You can't play this in her name.
Mark my words.
But instead of heeding her warning, Gustav ignored her and insisted on performing it. In order to stop him, Melanie refused to hand over the completed score. However, Gustav was unconcerned, as Franklin had already created a full version of the score on his own. With or without Melanie, the concerto would still feature Katherine's music.
Like I was trying to tell you earlier, I know the concerto.
Miss Walker, leave.
The next day, Melanie asked Philip to look after Zoe because she wanted to go to Katherine's house to find out how to stop the terror caused by the music. There, Melanie noticed that Philip looked sleep-deprived. Apparently, his mind was also disturbed by hearing the cursed concerto. Before Melanie left, Philip wanted to show her the restored version of the damaged part at the end of the audio recording. From the restored recording, a strange voice could be heard, seemingly the voice of the demon that had been tormenting Melanie and everyone who heard the music.
That audio you gave me to clean up? I haven't figured out what the second part says, but the first part, it's not even a real voice, not human anyway.
It was revealed that the demon had deliberately possessed Melanie, and perhaps even Katherine, to make them write the cursed score, with the goal of controlling the minds of anyone who heard the music to bring about disaster. Melanie then hurried to Katherine's house to figure out how to stop the demon. After searching for a long time, she discovered many hidden musical notes behind the wallpaper. Melanie was then startled by the sudden appearance of Alice. Alice explained how dangerous the music was, recounting how it had left Katherine living in fear until her death. Katherine herself had tried to find a way to destroy the music, but her efforts never succeeded. While talking with Alice, Melanie remembered the notes in the score about the disruption of the harmonic patterns. She wondered what would happen if the broken harmonic patterns were restored, allowing the harmony to return to order. This gave Melanie the idea to perform the music with the proper harmonic patterns. Without wasting any time, Melanie went home and prepared to rush to the orchestra theater to stop Gustav from performing the cursed music.
Did she tell you how to stop it?
There is no way to stop it. Impossible to escape. If you hear it,
Fuck, oh my god, that's it. A world of chaos.
On the other side, Zoe was still curious about the ending of the Pied Piper story from the town of Hamelin, which Melanie had not told her. Zoe returned to her storybook and discovered that, in the ending, the Pied Piper took revenge by enchanting the children of Hamelin with his flute music. The children, under his control, were led to the Weser Lake, where they were drowned. However, there was one deaf child who was unaffected by the Piper's spell. This deaf child witnessed everything that happened to the other children and quickly warned the townspeople about the Pied Piper's actions. The people of Hamelin were furious and immediately executed the Pied Piper by drowning him in the Weser Lake. Before dying, the Pied Piper warned that as long as his music existed in the world, he would continue to abduct children. It was then revealed that the Pied Piper had transformed into a demon. The demon deliberately used Melanie and Katherine's bodies to write his musical score so that he could capture more children. When children listened to the music, they fell under the demon's control. But if adults heard it, it caused hallucinations and could even lead to death. Later, Zoe briefly heard the voice of Colin inviting her to play hide and seek.
Hide and seek.
However, it was not Colin. It was the demon Pied Piper in disguise. In an instant, Zoe was abducted by the demon. Meanwhile, Philip was also tormented by the demon, hearing the cursed music constantly. Determined to end the suffering, Philip bravely damaged his eardrum so he could no longer hear the music. Shortly after Melanie returned home, she was shocked to find Zoe missing and Philip acting strangely. With no time to waste, Melanie hurried to the theater to stop the performance. Unfortunately, Melanie arrived too late. The performance had already begun, and the cursed music was being played, with Franklin as the lead flutist. As the music played, the audience became completely absorbed, almost hypnotized by the sound.
of the Concerto for Children. I hope you enjoy.
Meanwhile, the orchestra members, including Gustav and Franklin, began bleeding from their ears due to playing the cursed music. Melanie rushed to the electrical panel and cut the theater's power, stopping the performance immediately. The rest of the orchestra members collapsed and died after the performance ended. Then, something strange happened. A mysterious door suddenly appeared in the middle of the stage. The demon began to emerge from Franklin's body, killing him instantly. The demon then killed Gustav and played his flute, hypnotizing the children in the audience and leading them to Wesser Lake through the door. Melanie followed and entered the door, finding the familiar landscape she always saw when hearing the cursed music. From afar, she saw Zoe, who had also been kidnapped by the demon. Because Zoe was still wearing her hearing aids, she was easily hypnotized by the demon. Melanie quickly removed the hearing aids, freeing Zoe from the demon's control. Melanie hurriedly led Zoe away, but the demon noticed Zoe's escape and began to pursue her. A chase ensued between Zoe and the demon. Just as the demon was about to catch Zoe, Melanie began playing the demon's music, but with a corrected, orderly, harmonic pattern. This weakened the demon. Zoe joined in playing the music, and together they managed to defeat the demon. After the demon vanished, the children, including Colin, returned to the real world, and everyone gradually recovered from the hypnotic effects of the demon's music. 3 months passed, and Melanie was able to live peacefully with Zoe. One day, while Zoe was having a music lesson, she asked her teacher to listen to a piece she had created. The teacher agreed, but as Zoe began to play, her eyes turned yellow, signaling that she was still influenced by the Pied Piper demon. Under the demon's control, Zoe created music capable of bringing danger to the world, repeating the old story when Katherine and Melanie had been manipulated to compose the cursed music. And thus, the story